Howdy y'all! Welcome back to my channel. This is Kate Scene, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing y'all how I make a river and a pond with the new item canceling technique. So if you enjoy Palia content, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and give me a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments what you want me to build next. But as I said, this is using the new item canceling method. So if you don't know how to do that on console, I do have tutorial videos that I'll have linked down in the comments. And yeah, so for this project, what you're going to need is you're going to need a lot of tables. You're going to need a lot of blocks, and you're going to need a shelf. As you can see, that shelf is like just a hair shorter than the tables. You want to make sure that your shelf is just a little bit lower. That way everything sinks down to the level we want it. So I am going to go ahead and get this table into place. And go ahead and pick up some of these blocks. I'm going to need more blocks than this, but you know, add it stacked up neat up just to be looking nice. So, give me a second here. Let me pick up all these blocks. Do I get them in the right order? Okay. So, the big key to starting out on this is making sure that you have a block on every table. That is a requirement for this project. So it doesn't matter if they're stone blocks or wooden blocks. I just use stone blocks because that's what I had running around. And your very first one, you'll want to put it right at the edge of the table. Most everything else, you'll probably end up just putting it in the middle. But what I've been doing is I'll put the block on the table. Then I'll focus the block to do group select. So it's basically like you're doing the cup trick, but instead of a cup or a gourmet bowl, you're using a block, because that trick can be used for any item you can put on something else. So we're just going to fast forward here, but basically I'm just putting blocks on the tables, and then I'm group selecting the block and then moving them both together to where the tables are overlapping each other. Typically the way we've done water, you know, for the past year in this game till, you know, they give us extra water. There we go. Okay, and now you can see here, I did do a little turn on that one because I decided, you know what, in my creek, in my river, I want it to turn a little bit. So we're just having it turn, you know, because I just wanted a nice little decoration, because as you guys can see in the background, this is what I call my flow grove. I have 300 flow trees, and we chop them every Friday on stream. So if you need flow wood, or you want just to make some more money or get some more foraging experience, like, definitely recommend coming checking me out at twitch.tv/kfiercene and come chop some trees with us. You can see that curve is looking nice and good. So now we're just gonna continue straightening it out a little bit. And we're just placing more tables. A lot of this is just, you know, placing tables, so getting everything in the shape you want. Now you can see I'm turning it back a bit this way, so I can curve it back this way because I don't want it to go too far out that way, because this is my plot and this is the way I'm designing it. So you guys can just have a straight one. You guys can put as many curves in it as you want. You know, it's literally up to your creativity how you want to shape your own water. This is just the shape I'm doing just because I think it looks a bit more realistic than having, you know, just a super straight looking piece of water, you know? So you can see I just go back to recheck, make sure it's all looking good before I continue on. And we're just continuing down. And of course, I ran out of tables, so I was like, let me go grab some more tables, because Lord knows I've got like 30 of them still. And I was like, while I'm here, I'm gonna grab some more blocks, because as I said, this needs For the size that I'm doing on here, I needed a lot. Now, obviously, you guys don't have to do as many, but you know, if you want to do something this long, then yeah, you got to go ahead, pre-make some stuff, and you got to make sure you have enough room. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna move some of this stuff out of the way just to be on the safe side. And the big thing is just ensuring that every table has a block. Because if tables don't have a block, then they won't be able to move. And as you can see here, I wanted to start like separating them a little bit and trying to make it a bit bigger. So you can see here, I'm really struggling with this to get this spot covered up. Now later on, later on in this video, I will discover a better way to do this part. But at the moment, as you can see, I'm just not getting that table to line up the way I want it to, you know? I was going to edit this out, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to keep the struggle in so you guys can see, you know, sometimes it literally just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of finagling to get things right, and sometimes they don't just get put in the right area. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to cover up that little green area. I'm not that concerned about it because I'm going to be decorating it on the inside. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just put a big fish over it or something. So we're just at the moment here, just trying to fill it in. Trying to get it in to where it'll fit the way I want it to. You know, and sometimes it just comes down to being a little creative. You know, I'm like, you know what? We'll get this fixed. So I'm just going through piece by piece, trying to make sure I got it fixed up the way I want it to. And if the sides are a little rough, it's fine. We're going to be fixing it in post edit. So, you know, at this point in time, I'm now just going down one of the sides because I decided that I wanted to do like a little like floating island in the middle of my river. So the moment I'm just going ahead and bringing down the main spot on one side. And as you can see, like I'm sometimes putting the blocks at the very front or at the very end of the table. That way it gives me more room to put the block into the table. Because you can see I had it on the edge, I got it into place, and then I moved it back into the middle. So, and here is where I'm really starting to create my little island and, you know, get it put into the place where I want it. That way my little floating island can start to be formed. Because to be honest, it was because at first I was struggling and filling in that empty gap. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna have me a little island. But then, come to find out here in a little bit, I'll show y'all the easy fix where you don't even have to do something like that if you don't want to. You guys can just completely cover it all up. But as you can see here, I'm just going through and just finishing off this long side to get it down basically as far down as I want it to go. And then we're going to go back through and reconnect it all. So I'm over here like putting a little turn on the edge, make sure it's looking all nice and neat because that's going to be the edge of my pond because we're now in the pond area. And as you can see, I'm trying to bait on how I want this to play. So I said, screw it, we're going to walk around and we're going to do it on the outside. Just for me to not like the way it was going on the outside. So I decided to bring it back inside. Sometimes you'll want the grid on, sometimes you'll want the grid off. That is like one of the biggest tips in building this. It can get really frustrating getting everything into place. Obviously, this is like 3 times speed, so it looks like I'm just putting it all up really fast. But you can see every time those blocks move, that's me struggling trying to get it into a place. Like, sometimes this game can be a little finicky, as you guys know, and not everything wants to go into the place you want it to go to. Sometimes they'll want to connect in a weird way. But as you can see here, I'm now basically building the other side of the island and basically kind of like the fork in the river to rejoin at the little pond here at the end. So, oh, I didn't like how that one was. That wasn't lined up. There we go. And so now we're going to continue filling this in. And I said, you know what? I want this pond to be a little thicker down here at the bottom. So we are bringing this in. As you can see, I'm trying to turn that in because I'm trying to obviously make it a bit more of a pond and make my island a bit smaller, but I'm just having a hard time getting it to turn the way I want it to. And then I realized, oh my god, that's what I'm doing wrong. So I went ahead and got me a starred food. Can literally get you a starred gourmet, or you can get you a gourmet bowl, a plate, a starred food, anything. We're doing the same trick, just a smaller item. Because I realized, oh, if I use a smaller item than the big old block, I can actually merge the tables more into each other like that. But I am very sure to make sure I can fit a block on top of that table when I'm done though. So you can see I put a block immediately on that table as soon as I got it into place. So now I'm just going to continue placing the ones where I need to. Where I need to use a block, I'll use a block. In a place where I need to use, what in this case, a cake, I'm going to be using the cake. So, as I said, you can use your gourmet bowls that you've always been using. You can use a plate. You can use whatever. So now I'm over here figuring out how big I want the edge of my pond because we're kind of like filling everything in now. So we're using the cake again just to make sure we get it all into place. Placing a block immediately on the table. That way I don't forget. Or otherwise, Lord knows, I'll probably forget. There we go, filling that in on the inside, moving that block a little back, that way I have a little more room for it. And now we're just placing everything. Fill that in right there. As I said, I'm using that cake every chance I get. Now you can see I'm going to be putting these two down, but you'll see towards the end of the video that I actually had issues with these two tables with their blocks on them. Like they didn't want to actually work with everything else, so I kind of just said screw it. So at the moment I'm putting those last two tables on there, but those last two tables won't stay. In case you were wondering, and at the end be like, why is this a different one? So now as you can see, we have the shape of our river done. And what I'm going to be doing is pulling out a post. Because basically now what you want to do is you want to put a post right at the very edge. That way you can see exactly how much of the items group select. You'll want to put it near the box that you have right on the edge. And as you can see, that highlighter spot is not going very far. And that's because there are not enough blocks here, like in between the blocks to connect to each other. So basically now what I'm doing is I'm going to be going back through and I'm going to be adding more builder's blocks in between any of them where I feel like there's a gap. I'll go check it, see how far it goes, and I can see that ending spot. So I'm like, okay, that gap right there is not working. So I got to make sure those blocks are a little closer together. When you're doing a double like river like this, you don't actually have to make both sides super close. As long as one side is close enough and still close enough to the blocks on the other table, you're good. So as you can see, I'll primarily be doing it on the piece on top. I'm just going to primarily be putting blocks on there and just literally mainly just putting blocks on one of the sides of the river, and it will count for both. Just, you know, sometimes and placing these blocks will sometimes require different angles. You can see I'm moving it so I can see exactly where it's at, and then I press B, pop it back into place, and I'm just placing down more of these builder blocks. Anywhere I got room, I'm placing a builder's block. just to make sure that I have a nice easy time on moving all of these while ensuring that every table still has a block on it. So we went ahead and put a block on every table so we knew exactly what to work with, and then at this point we'll see exactly where we need to fix things. You can generally tell where you're going to need to put an extra block. You'll start seeing a gap. So now in this part where I do have my river divulge off into two different pieces, I am going through and making sure that both sides have pieces that are connected, and you can see my little island right there in the middle. So we're just filling in more of those blocks. We're doing a test to see how big they all want to go, and as you can see, they almost all connect, just like there's just a little spot down here at the edge. So we're just getting this last little spot all filled out so that it can all move together. And once you start doing this enough, you'll actually be able to look at it and be like, okay, this is way too much space here. I need to fix that. So now I wanted to make sure I had a block right there on that table because I was like, I don't know if that table got a block or not. Okay, so it's all now moving in one big cohesive piece. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to connect it all, but you're going to see here where I have a very big issue, because a lot of times when you do big mega projects like this, as you can see, I will group select from the poll. It is very important you group select from the poll, but as you can see, like, it's literally got me like in the middle and it's not wanting to place where I want it to. That is a big issue I had. And basically you can see the easiest solution is to either like hop plots, go from one plot to another, reload your game, come back and wait for a little bit. I actually ended up taking a break and coming back to it. And then you know what? It actually worked for me. So as you can see, I hopped over to another plot, I came back, and I item selected from the poll, and as you can see, it's now moving the way I want it to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place the board down, and we're going to item cancel the board, and we're going to put it right under where the shelf is. As you can see, I don't have an item in my bag to item cancel, so I was like, let me quickly grab, this bouncy shroom just to use as an item to place for item canceling. So you can see I placed the board right under the shelf, okay? And so it's technically now currently connected to the shelf, so I'm gonna go, as I said, group select from the post, and then we're going to move the post onto the flooring, okay? Now everything is connected to that flooring here. So I'm going to remove the post, and then I'm going to move the flooring over a little bit, and it sinks all of the tables into the ground because we did a sinking method with item canceling. So now as you can see, I'm just carefully going through and removing all of those blocks I had previously placed on top. And as you can see, we're just having now a nice little river that's now appearing on my plot. As you can see, that was that little square where we messed up earlier, but we're going to be covering it with a catfish spoiler. So now that we've got the general shape of the pond that we want, and we're just going through and getting rid of all the blocks, we can see how gorgeous this looks, but it looks kind of weird just this on its own, so we definitely gonna have to hide it. So the way we're gonna go about hiding it is I'm gonna move my shelf out of the way. You wanna make sure you have plenty of space, because as you can see, I just can't place anything right on top. I tried it with a block, I tried it over here with a log, and basically due to the fact that the table's just slightly above the ground, it's not gonna work. So I was like, you know what? We'll try some rock borders. And obviously, the rocks also does not want to sit because it's just a little bit up on the ground. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab me some posts, and I'm going to put the post basically along the side of every curvature that happens, like every time I do a turn. and I'm basically going to be outlining the river with these posts. That way I know exactly what to do on the next part. So I'm just filling in everything so I know exactly where everything needs to go. And obviously outlining the inside of my island too, because that's just as important. And now we're just going to put in a couple more poles. And then I think at this point I realized, oh my god, I'm one pole short. And then I was like, oh, I don't need this one at the beginning. So I use that one instead. So now what we're going to do is we're going to item cancel this one. And we're going to put it anywhere out of the way. Sometimes you can just place things out of bounds and it works. So as you can see here, I'm just basically just running around on my plot, trying to find me a good place to put this around my decorations that isn't going to mess up any of my current decorations or this build I'm currently working on. So I was like, let me go really off the plot, see if it works. No, it doesn't work. So we're walking further back and we actually find a spot way back here where it's like half of it's like back in the mountain, but that's fine because we're going to be moving it all later. So now we're going to item cancel placement there. And because we item canceled moved it, it's going, you'll see later on what we do with it. But now we have our outline with the posts of where everything is. So now I'm just going to lay me a big rock up here right at the beginning to cover up the big wooden plank that everything's connected to. And now going along the side, I'm going to be placing rocks. You can see I place it right beside the post, and then I get rid of the post, and then I move it pretty much where the post is. I just wanted to make sure it was all lined up perfect. You know, this is the spot where you pretty much have to do this all in one go. So make sure to give yourself, you know, some time to place all your rocks. And I'm going to be placing different kinds of rocks because I don't want the same rock in the order all the time. So we're just going to make our way to the next spot, and then we're going to remove that post, and then we're going to place our next rock, and we're making sure to turn it because we know that's the turn, because I basically placed a pole at every bend or crook that I had within this. So as you can see right here, we have the perfect outlines, and I was like, you know what, we're going to grab a leafy log. Because I want a leafy, I love the logs, and I think they look really cute as like a bridge going across the river. So that's what we're basically doing there. And so now we're going to go onto the other side, and we're going to start placing some rocks. You can see I removed that post. And just trying to place rocks in there. So we're basically building the outline of the river here without actually seeing where the river is. So as you can see, I'm not able to put the rocks there the way I want it to. So I just said, screw it, we're just gonna move it, and we're going to move the leafy log arch back over there, or the leafy logs back over there. So now we're just going to be placing more rocks and just trying to make sure we get them all angled towards the next post. Like that's the whole point, is we're angling it to the next post. And some of the posts, some of the rocks you're actually able to put into the post. You don't actually have to remove the post for some of the rocks. Sometimes the rocks want to be in there, sometimes they don't. As you can see, I angled that a bit more to the other direction. So now we're just making sure we're getting that turn in. And as you can see there, that rock actually went into that post. So it made it real easy to keep that lined up. And at this point in time, I go into my storage to bring me out more leafy logs, because you know what, the leafy logs are also a great border because they're very long, and I just didn't want to cover it all with leafy logs because then I feel like that would look weird. But I'm just going through and I'm just placing some logs, I'm placing some rocks. I definitely want it to be a bit of a variety. I don't want it to be like the same thing. So as you can see it there, I was like, oh my god, 3 rocks in a row? No. So place another leafy log, because as I said, the logs take up such a large amount of space. I do love using them for a project like this. I just don't want to solely rely on them. So, and sometimes different rocks will work better in different spots. You'll find out, oh, this rock works better here than this one, you know. So I'm just going through, and just going along the border that I had created, as you can see. So now we're just going to remove those poles because we're already past those parts. And sometimes, as I mentioned, the poles don't want to go into the rocks. Sometimes they do. So, and then I was like, oh, I got another long straight area. I'm like, let me throw another leafy log down over here. And I try to fit a big rock over here, but couldn't really get it to fit the way I wanted to. So I said, you know what? We'll just stick with the smaller rocks. I do love these small rocks. They're like one of my favorite decorations. So now we're going to start on the inside little island piece. So now we're just trying to connect this inside island. I was like, you know what? That's another long spot. A great spot to put another leafy log. Because I got him. So now we're going to just keep filling in this little area. I was going to try to do a log right there, but I couldn't make it fit and go as far out as I wanted it to. So I said, you know what? We're just doing rocks. I tried to use a lot more logs in this than what I did. But I'm like, okay, now I've pretty much got my triangle done, and that log just won't seem to work the way I want it to right there. So, as I said, I try to use a lot of logs just because it takes up a lot less space and uses a lot less items. Because, you know, you still got to look at your item limit on a lot of these plots. So, and I literally, one rock left. I'm like, really? It's going to be one rock I'm short. So we're just coming back in here, grab another rock, just to place the final rock to get that one little area done. But it's always the way it is. You're always one rock short what you pull out of your storage. So now that we have our beautiful little border made, what we're going to do, because we item canceled the river out of the way and then left it alone, we're basically hopping over to this. We're hopping over to my main plot because I had a storage of frog plushies I've been saving for this project. So when I came over here, pick up some bushes, pick up some frogs, and then hop back over. Basically, all you gotta do is just hop to one plot and hop back to another plot. I, you know, need to pick up some stuff on that other plot. But because we item canceled the river and canceled it, it's now moved back into its original position and is now under all of these rocks and leafy logs we just placed. As you can see, this is now looking gorgina. We love it. Okay. So now that we've got this pretty much put together, it's now just time to do a little decorations. I was trying to put the frogs onto the leafy log, but apparently the new frog plushies don't want to go on there. So I said, you know what? They're just gonna go in the river or outside the river. And I decided I wanted to put an extra flow tree because I do have a few extra flow trees for decorations. I wanted to do a flow tree on my little island in the middle and put a little frog down here. And I tried so hard to fit a bush over here. Like, I was like, I can make this bush work. I can get it. It'll fit perfectly over here. But it did not. So I was like, we'll do a different, smaller bush. And then I still tried again to put that bush up. I don't know what it is with me and that big old bush, but I tried. And then I tried to put a little frog down there. Couldn't. And then I realized, oh, I had this giant gap over here. Let me pull these in, at least try to cover it up. But I couldn't cover it up with the bush because, as I said, I was determined to get that bush to fit. So instead, we just kind of went and tried to do a little bit of editing and pull those rocks in. As I said, you'll see a little bit of the side of the water here or there on the edge of the rock, but nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to judge you. It's okay if it's not perfect until Singularity 6 gives us some sort of water feature. So now what I'm just doing is I'm just adding some decorations. I know I have a lot of fish plushies I want to add because this is a river and pond. So obviously we got to have little fishies, you know, little kois. I got swimming up the river, you know, as kois do. So whereas over here placing some fishing plushies now. And as I said, I had this big gap, and so I figured I was like, oh, I'll just cover it with the catfish. And so I played around with it. I pretty much got it covered. But to fix that problem in the future, all I have to do is use a cake on a table. I just didn't realize that back then. Put me down a big old fish. Put a couple of mud minnows in the skinnier part of the other river. And yeah, place some more of the plushies because plushies really I feel like brings it alive. And here we go. Here is the finished product of my lovely little river that then goes into a pond down at the end. So this did take quite a bit of work, but it was so worth it. So let me know if you guys did it and if you guys love it as much as I do. And until the next time, I'm going to see you guys later. Bye.